Welcome into the third edition of the Roll Jays podcast. I'm Jimmy Allen. That's Alex Drake. We're brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. Creighton assistant coach Ryan Miller is going to join us to talk about what the summer workouts have looked like for the Jays. And for the first time, Joel Lorenzi from the Omaha World Herald is going to join us to talk about all things Creighton basketball as well. Will he be in the Bahamas? We'll find out. It's going to be an interesting season for sure. Alex, since we last spoke, guys that kind of started showing up on campus. Isaac Trout is now there. They're kind of in the full swing of the summer workouts. If there's somebody that we've seen, we'll widen the question. If there's one person on this roster right now that you think needs to improve before the season starts, who is it and why?
I think my biggest target is Jonathan Lawson. And Isaac Trout is a close 1B there. And for me, with them, it's lack of experience.
Right.
I think Jonathan Lawson needs to get stronger. Probably needs to, not only does he have limited experience, but he's playing up in a Power 6 conference now. So his decision-making's got to get better. His decisiveness has to be a little bit quicker and a little bit stronger. And Isaac Trout, for me, it's just I assume he has to get better because he hasn't played a minute of college basketball yet.
Yeah. Big difference between Grand Island and the Big East. For me, it may seem a little weird to give this answer, but for me, it's Baylor Shireman. And I don't mean from a skill set standpoint. I more mean defining his role on this team, because I think for him last year, that was the biggest problem was we didn't really know who Baylor Shireman was in this offense. And at some point, even in this defense, he went from being the three-point guy to really the distributor of the team. And being the rebounded defensive guy. I think he needs to assert himself in this offense sooner rather than later. I don't think his game is at the three-point line. I think he needs to find a way to get inside. We've seen this team last year be so hesitant at the rim, and I know that's going to be a problem again this year. I think that needs to get figured out in the summer. We'll ask assistant coach Ryan Miller and Joel Lorenzi all those questions and more. We come back. You're listening to the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast. Alex Drake, Jimmy Allen with you here, obviously joined by assistant coach Ryan Miller. Coach, thank you very much for making time for us in the summer. How has your offseason been?
Oh, it's been pretty eventful. Had to put together a roster next year, and a lot of comings and goings, but pretty excited about the team we have right now and our 23-24 season.
The offseason probably looks a little bit different for us versus you. Like you said, you've been quite busy. For you, when does the 2023 season end and the 2024 season start?
It's started the day we lost to San Diego State, the Elite Eight. The 23-24 season started because rosters are unpredictable in college basketball these years. There's lots of the transfer portal and all that stuff going on, so you have to be on top of it. So the next season starts right after that, to be honest with you. You don't get very much time off because if they're going to be in the roster for next year, or they want to enter the portal, or they want to enter the draft. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be able to swivel quickly and be able to recruit quickly the kids that you want in our program to maintain where we're at as a program, Elite Eight contender, or a deep NCAA tournament contender. So the season doesn't end when the season ends.
Yeah. The roster composition got a whole lot easier for you guys with three big names that were potentially leaving coming back. Can you talk about how much that helps, especially for the newcomers?
Oh, I mean, to win in college basketball, number one, you need strong veteran leadership. You need to be older. You need to be the players you have on your roster need to be through some of these battles and some of these highly competitive basketball games, whether it's in the Big East or postseason play, or in our non-conference schedule, we schedule up. So to have that veteran leadership is the only way that you can keep continuity. So having Trey Alexander, having Baylor Shireman, having Ryan Kelkbrenner, 3 important starters back, and all 3 are potentially first-team All Big East players, and potential. And if they all would have went in the draft, they probably all would have been drafted in the second round. So to have those 3 guys back is huge.
We obviously we're all waiting for Trey's decision at the latest, and Baylor made a quick decision, and Ryan was just a little bit before Trey's decision. But when you're sitting there waiting on those guys, and you guys see them every day and see how talented they are, can you put a percentage on how sure you were that they may come back versus how sure versus thinking they were for sure out the door?
Well, with Baylor, he made a quick decision. He went through the process after he left South Dakota State. So he didn't want to go through the process again. He wanted to come back right away and try to improve his draft stock while helping our team, not only knock on that Elite Eight door, but blow through that door. So he made a decision relatively quickly because he's already been through the process. With Trey and Kelkbrenner, they haven't been through the process. So both of them want to go through it, get that experience, work out for NBA teams, work at the NBA draft combine. They wanted to go through all that experience and to see where they sat on the draft boards. And, if all 3 of them went in the draft, all 3 of them would have been drafted. I think all 3 of them can increase their draft status and stock throughout the year. So, if you look back, probably besides Baylor, who's 100% committed coming back, the other 2 are probably 50-50.
Gotcha. Coach, Baylor Shireman is a guy that we talked a lot about last season with his ability to just always be in the right spot rebounding. Is that something that he can help coach the younger guys too, or is that just 100%, an innate ability?
Well, he has, like you said, an innate ability to go rebound the basketball. He has a good eye and good anticipation where the ball's going to go and the trajectory it's going to bounce off the rim. So he can anticipate some of those things, which is kind of unique and it's hard to teach. But but it also his ability to keep going to the glass every single time. A lot of times when you're a rebounder, you go to the glass and you spend a lot of work and effort, you don't get the ball either. So, but it's the consistency of going to the glass every single time what matters. And that's the things he can really teach. He can teach, hey, keep working. The ball might not bounce your way this time, but if you keep going, you'll be a proficient rebounder. And that's one thing we're really going to have to work on this year's team. I mean, we're a little smaller, probably less athletic than we have been, but more skilled probably. So we're going to need the team doing a really good job at team rebounding. Everybody on the court being engaged and going to get defense rebounds.
With Mason coming back this year, and then you also add Jonathan Lawson and Isaac Trout through the transfer portal, you've added some depth at a couple of key positions. How much of an effort was that after we saw last year some guys going pretty deep into the clock and getting 38, 40 minutes some games? How much of an effort was there to build depth on your guys' bench this season?
We feel that we had pretty good depth. The problem with our depth last year was really young with Ben Schultzberg and kids like that. They weren't quite ready to, play in Big East basketball games. Although talented, they needed some experience. With Jonathan Lawson, with Farabello coming back, we have guys that have a lot of experience. Farabello's played, TCU in Big 12 at TCU for 3 years. Played in the Sweet 16 with, or the Final 32 or Sweet 16, Final 32 with TCU. And lost a heartbreaker versus Arizona. So he's had a lot of experience. And then got a kid like Jonathan Lawson, who was a top 50 player at Memphis, high school player at Memphis, and then has some experience in the NCAA tournament with them and a postseason team with them. They won the American Athletic Conference tournament last year. So adding guys that are winners and have experience on our roster was very, very important.
Coach, looking at the way the roster stands today, especially with those newcomers, it appears to me that we have some different flexibility that we haven't had in the way we want to set the lineup. Is that an added advantage to you guys, you think?
Oh, no question. Versatility of the lineup. I mean, be able to play small, be able to play bigger. I mean, Isaac Trout, him coming in from Virginia gives us some flexibility how we want to play the 4 and the 5 spot. Fred King and Kelkbrenner are going to be staples there. Trout, Mason, Jason Green will be all competing for that 4 spot. But Trout gives us a little more flexibility with his size to be able to maybe a pick and pop type 5-man like a Nunji or something like that. So yeah, there's a little bit of flexibility there. Then we can always downshift too. We can put Jonathan Lawson's big enough, long enough to play the fours. Baylor can play some 4-2, so we can downshift a little bit too and play a little smaller and quicker too.
When Ryan was sick last year, Ryan Kalkbrenner, we saw Fred King get a lot of minutes earlier in the season. We saw him sparingly as Kalkbrenner came back. What do you need to see from Fred King this offseason for those minutes to go up, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, Kalkbrenner, in our opinion, played too many minutes last year, played about 33, 34 minutes. He probably needs to get to the high 20s to be really, really, really impactful and not get worn out there. It's a long season, and playing those type of impactful minutes as a 7'1" center can drain you a little bit. So we just need some, he went through some games last year and he showed what he could do. I mean, we just need more experience, more playing time. This year he'll probably see his role increase, see his playing time increase, because we do not want to play Kalkbrenner that many minutes. We want him to play. We want a fresh set of legs out there, a fresh set of minds out there, and be able to make plays and make them consistently. So fatigue makes cowards of us all, and be able to play fresh bodies really helps. And Fred King should take some of those minutes from Kalkbrenner this year, so we have a fresh body out there at all times.
Coach, we're the presidents of a couple of those rotation guys off the bench fan clubs. Jimmy runs the Mason Miller fan club. I run the Francisco Farabello fan club. It appeared to me towards the end of the season that their confidence was super high, and I would argue that Mason was probably one of the best offensive rebounders. Where is their mindset going into this year, and how much more confident are they with the way they ended the season?
Oh, I think both those guys. Francisco was a career 40% three-point shooter in the Big 12. Obviously, Big 12, arguably one of the top conferences in the country, whether it's Big East or Big 12. So he had a really good career there, and obviously his shooting numbers, particularly early in the season, were way down. We knew it was only a matter of time, and he, then in the tournament, I think he shot like 50% in the NCAA tournament right at the end of the season. So we knew that was there in him. Obviously, getting adjusted to new team, new teammates, chemistry stuff. He spent a lot of time in Argentina the past summer during the transition, so he didn't come here in great shape. And so that transition, getting that chemistry right, really helped him down the stretch, knowing his role, knowing his minutes he's going to have coming off the bench, and the consistency of those minutes gave him a lot more confidence. And this year, he's going to be asked to be, another leader on the team. He was here for a run to the Elite Eight. Was here through the ups and downs last year, so he's gonna be one of those guys with Trey, Kalkbrenner, Fred, and the guys that were already previously here, Mason included, all the guys that were previously here, to get the leadership to the younger guys, the newcomers, the Isaac Trouts, the Lawsons, those guys. To be able to show what Creighton basketball is all about. Mason, obviously, he had I thought exceeded some expectations in my mind. Being a freshman, playing an up and down role, minutes up and down, and being able to be impactful in those minutes. As the season got on, he got more and more confident, had a great game at Seton Hall, had some good games in the tournament, and we expect big things out of him, both those guys.
When you guys find out Ryan Nembhard's leaving, you go get a guy in Stephen Ashworth who's played a ton of basketball. How important was it for this coaching staff to add a point guard that had a ton of experience?
Yes, I mean, you can't. It's very, very, very difficult to win in college basketball at elite level, to play in NCAA tournaments, to play in the top of this league, top 3 or 4 in this league, without experience. You need guys that played on winning teams. You need guys that have been impactful on winning teams. And when we lost Ryan Nembhard, we had to pivot fast, and we're lucky to have Stephen Ashworth. He's one of the best shooters in the country, but he offers a lot of leadership too, being a multi-year player at Utah State and playing in the NCAA tournament there at Utah State too, on a very winning basketball club. So winning and talent, we couldn't be more happy with where we're at with Ashworth.
When those conversations happen, is there anything you told him he may need to work on in the system, or was it a matter of, hey, that guy's a perfect fit here, let's go let it fly?
I think both. I think obviously it is a perfect fit. Come here, let it fly. You're one of the premier 3-point shooters in the NCAA basketball. We have a perfect system for you. You're going to excel here, but there's also some things you have to work on. You have to get a little more athletic. You have to get a little more tougher. You have to get a little more physical to play against the premier athletes in the country. You play in the Big East. It's a different level of athlete. These are big time athletes in this league versus the Mountain West. So yeah, there'll be a little adjustment period there, but those are some things he has to work on. To take his game to the next level, to be one of the premier point guards in the league, and he's in here in the gym every single day, and he's with our strength coach Jeremy Anderson every day to increase in some of those things that he can with his strength and athleticism. So I think he's going to have a heck of a year for us, and his leadership is already being shown in practice.
You lose, along with Ryan Nembhard, you also lose Arthur Kaluma, who, in my opinion, was kind of a throwback to an old school enforcer for this team. He kind of played with that chip on his shoulder and was the physical guy. Is there a guy on the roster that can kind of step into that role, or does everybody kind of need to step up into that and have more of that in them?
I think Alex, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's got to be a team effort. Obviously, Arthur gave us a different level of athlete, a different level of physicality. I mean, he was 6'7", whatever, 220 pounds, very strong, physical athlete, very good. He can play inside, outside a little bit. So I think it's going to have to be a team deal with Jason Green, Isaac Trout, Mason Miller, kind of fill those voids, and then Baylor Shireman taking the next step kind of in his development too, being a physical, more stronger player too.
Whether it be the freshmen coming in or any of the transfer portal guys, who are you personally most excited to get your hands on for the first time this offseason?
Well, it's hard to pick one. I mean, we're very excited about our roster. Our young guys. Some of them might not have much of a role this year. Some of them might come here and develop this year, but they're very good. They're very hungry. The Sterling Knoxes, the Brock Weisses, Josiah Dowslers. They're all hungry. They're hungry. They want to get better every single day. So they're all going to have great careers. But this game of college basketball to win in the Big East is one with older kids. They're more developed. That's been through some battles. So we're excited about Jonathan Lawson. We're excited about Isaac Trout. And we're excited about Stephen Ashworth. We're excited about all these newcomers coming in and being key contributors to a strong team.
That's great, assistant coach Ryan Miller. Coach, appreciate your time in the month of June. Hopefully you've got a vacation coming up soon. We'll catch up with you down the road.
I appreciate it, Jimmy. I appreciate it, Alex. In our world, there's no days off. So
that's great, assistant coach Ryan Miller. We'll be right back with Joel Lorenzi from the Omaha World Herald right here on the Roll Jays podcast.
Thank you.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into episode 3 of the Roll Jays podcast. Jimmy Allen, Alex Drake with you. We're joined by Joel Lorenzi from the Omaha World Herald. Joel, thank you very much for making your first appearance on our show.
Yes, sir. Of course.
We're excited to talk ball with you a little bit, man. Obviously, we're in June and not a whole lot usually going on in the realm of basketball things. But as we know, the Jays are in the gym as we speak, putting in work. There's a lot of additions to this team. Who are you most excited about to see this winter?
I think I'm most curious about Isaac Trout. I've been hearing good things about him over the past few days. I think some of the concerns I've maybe raised in some of my articles are still present, maybe not as glaring, but I had someone tell me, quote, he's the truth. So hearing good things about him, I think it could be interesting. I think just there are defensive concerns, but there are defensive concerns with Mason Miller, and these are some of the things I've had to, go over when people consistently ask me, like, yo, who's starting at the 4, this or that, and because I think that's been the most popular question as of late, and I think whichever way it falls, like, Creighton will be deeper as a result. Like, they're gonna get one of those guys that will be a reserve. And that's probably going to be an ever-changing thing. I mean, it could be different after the summer. It could be different in the fall. Like, I'm sure it'll change based on different lineups too. But they'll be deep out of it.
Knee-jerk reaction, June 8th. Who starts the 4 right now, in your opinion?
I don't know. I had heard all summer, based on the art stuff and whatever, that Mason was a front runner. But now that they got Isaac on campus, and obviously I think the thing that probably held Isaac back to start was they had never seen him play a game of college basketball. But now that he's in front of them, I gotta imagine he's making a case for himself because the skill set was always there. Like we knew how talented he was. But can't rule out Mason either because he was a 4-star once upon a time too. Obviously, he didn't get the reps last year, and he in his minutes, whether it was his role because of the players he shared the floor with or just his own personal limitations at the moment, he was limited in what he could do. I mean, was really a spot up to the core. You could count on your hand how many dribble drives he has. So it'll depend on the summer he has, but it's looking good for Isaac Trout right now, man. I mean, if he keeps killing like it seems he is, I mean, I don't know how you could deny him. It's really a concern about the fit next to Kalkbrenner, mobility, defense, how much Kalkbrenner maybe has to cover for him if he's getting blown by, stuff like that.
Where do you put Jonathan Lawson in that discussion?
I think 6, 7, man. I think he's top 7 in the rotation. Matter of fact, no, because if one of them, I think he's for sure top 7 or 8 in the rotation. He's definitely in the rotation.
Okay.
Because I think they still trust Farabello after last year. I gotta imagine Farabello is probably top 6 or 7. But I think Lawson's a guy who solves kind of a problem they had last year. There were times they could have used somebody to eat some of Farabello's minutes, and he does that. He's bigger, stronger, even though it might not look like it, I'm sure. He's fluid for how big he is in his frame, and he'll give them some stuff as a shooter, and as probably a more willing ball handler than Farabello is. So he'll be up there in a rotation. I gotta imagine whoever comes out the 4 spot that ends up on the bench is pretty high there too. But and that's why I say they're probably deeper than a year ago. Because I mean, if you go based on the final 20 minutes of the season, there were only 5 guys that Matt could really trust. And now I gotta imagine there's at least 7 if you count Farabello again. That would probably be 8. This is if Lawson pans out, of course.
I think if you put 5 or 6 games a year ago, at the last 20 minutes, there was only 5 guys they trusted.
Yeah, and that was a thing last year.
Joel, what kind of a role do you see Jonathan Lawson like really taking into effect on not necessarily offense, but on the defensive end? What do you kind of expect to see from a guy like him?
That's one of the things I'm curious about because from some of the stuff I have read, obviously I didn't watch every game, every Memphis game last year, but
it'd be weird if you did. Yeah, it'd be weird if you did.
Probably would be weird if I did, but from some of the stuff I heard, some of the things that kept him off the floor, at least one of the things that kept him off the floor down the stretch, because he played a lot of games. He played in like 29 and 30 games, so yeah. He played in games, but started to dwindle down the stretch because defense is what I heard. But obviously, he was a freshman. He's probably like 18 or 19. That stuff comes with time. If you're not like an immediate crazy athlete or one of the better team defenders coming out of high school, like that's team defense is something that people have to learn if you're not already a good one-on-one defender. And even if you are a good one-on-one defender, you might not be the best in the team scheme. So I'm sure that'll come for him. But from what I hear, it is a question mark for him. Obviously, I haven't watched him play defense, but he has the size. If he fills out his frame, he'll have the size and the frame to probably guard multiple positions, I'd imagine. So I'm sure that's something they're trying to hold him up to.
Yeah, getting 17 minutes in 29 games last year on average is going to be a big deal if you're the 6th or 7th man on this team because they didn't have that available last season. One thing Alex and I talked about during the season was the fact that anytime that Creighton had Ryan Nembhard at the point guard position, there was a situation on the floor where he was just obviously smaller than anybody he was going up against. They go out and they get Stephen Ashworth, who is another point guard that's only 6'1". Did it surprise you that Creighton didn't put more of an effort to get a bigger body point guard?
No, because I think they were after skill set more than anything in terms of availability. Like I thought a lot of the top available guards were around that same size. Like there were no off the top of my head, I can't think of an elite big guard who jumped in the portal who was actually a realistic target for them. Like I know people were signing him to Max Aismus, and he's small. And at the top of the portal was like Tyler Perry, he's small. Like a lot of the elite guards were small. And I mean, I think that's just what you get in college now. There are no Penny Hardaways or Ben Simmons or nothing like that. Like, I can't think of off the top of my head who's big and great.
Sure.
And then you got to worry about skill set too. And I think what they wanted was somebody who could really maximize the system they got. And so when you look at the replacements of Nembhard and Kaluma, like I don't know if it's the same level of talent, but they feel like and Ashworth is talented. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that's a crazy drop off. I'm not sure there's even a drop off if you plug him in the system. But it's different skill sets, and I think they just you look at who they picked up, and they tried to maximize their system. And so the way Mac wants to play, I think Ashworth was perfect for that. And so I think that was a priority more than anything, more the size and whatever.
Yeah, if I had to pick where there was a bigger drop off in terms of replacements, I lean Kaluma. I don't know about you, Joel. I lean Kaluma, but mainly not even necessarily floor production, but more of the personality trait that he carried of kind of being the bad guy on the team.
I think they'll miss him. I mean, they'll miss Nembhard too in moments. I think they'll miss Kaluma the same way. They'll miss him as an athlete, man, more than anything. I think his frame, his strength, his leaping ability, like these are things like I don't know. Like Isaac Trout is big, like he's 6'10", like a real 6'10", but he's not the same athlete.
It's not that athleticism, I agree.
Yeah, he's not the same athlete, not the same defender. Even though I mean, Kaluma had to be engaged to be like a really good defender, but which always didn't happen, obviously. But when he was, like, he was a good defender, man. And so these are things like these are holes they're gonna miss. But other than that, like I think they were comfortable missing some of that stuff again to play according to their system. And these are probably some of the things in the short term you could forfeit when you got a guy like Kalkbrenner down there who's literally a walking defense himself. Like I think these are things you probably figure out later. You can't be the perfect team. And if I'm sure, I guess if it was up to the staff, they wanted to be a team that looked more according to the system they want to be. Because I think that in the past 2 years, based on the talent they had, it wasn't like people know that it wasn't the most Creighton type of team. Obviously, the shooting wasn't all that consistent, whatever, and that's what they went for this offseason.
We obviously saw a lot of changes. We already talked about the transfer portal, but that's not the only places. The only place that transition happened in the Big East this year. Obviously, Rick Pitino is the new head coach at St. John's, and you've got Ed Cooley taking over at Georgetown, and the change at Providence. Of those changes, which are you most excited to see in action this year in the Big East?
Coaching changes or just
coaching changes?
Rick's up there, but I like I think people sleeping on Ken English, man, at Providence. Like I really like that for Providence.
And he's taking over an established program too. That's not a bad place to land it.
Yeah, so that's probably why it's more under the radar because Providence has been good, whatever. And obviously Georgetown is interesting because they've been really super bad. They were really bad last year, and obviously Cooley being there now is. People expect to turn around. I mean, he's done pretty well in the summer, so they should almost instantly be better. So I want to see that, especially because it feels like as good as the top of the league was last year, it feels like it could be similarly good this year, if not better, to start the year. And then it feels like it's deeper throughout. Like if Georgetown is good again, if St. John's is, as good as Rick's reputation is, like. We're looking at a really deep league. I don't know how many bids, but we're looking at a really deep league. Obviously, you still got your bad teams and like DePaul and Seton Hall probably got worse, but the league looks pretty deep again.
Is it crazy to say when we talk about the additions of what the bench is going to look like and being a deeper team, is it crazy to think that this year's team should have higher expectations than last year's team?
No, I don't think it is. I think it should at least have similar expectations. I mean, you look at last year's team. I think the preseason hype was probably unprecedented because, getting Baylor Shireman, getting those guys back, and I think the Kansas game, the way that happened in the tournament kind of played into some of that hype, and which it probably shouldn't have, but it did because it made for a better story, obviously. So it was just unprecedented hype, and this team might not get the hype, but they bring their three most important players back. They fill their holes with players that they feel could rock out in their system and are perfect for their system, and then they probably got two more guys that then they could trust a year ago down the stretch. And they got a schedule that allowed them to get those reps early and not really hinder those bench guys, because obviously they even if Mac maybe wanted to go to those guys early on with that brutal non-conference, he probably couldn't if we're being real. And he never did. So there's no hypotheticals there. Those guys really didn't develop. Ben Schultzberg is a guy I know a lot of people didn't want to walk, but he didn't get the time early on in the year. And in an alternate reality, he's probably still here. He's probably, I don't know, he probably ends up the end of the year better off. But here we are, and now they got more guys they could trust. So I think it's perfectly fair, even if there's a smidge of drop off in talent, depending on who you ask. I think they're probably deeper. So I think it's fair for sure.
Before we get you out of
Today
here,
on June 8th.
Go ahead, Alex.
Today on June 8th, what are your expectations for next year? Is it Sweet 16 again? Is it Elite 8?
I can't say tournament expectations. I think they can at least make a Sweet 16 again, but I'm thinking seeding. I think they could peak at like a 2 seed. I think at worst they probably like a 6 seed again. It would take something crazy for a 6 seed to happen though. I mean, they would have to be either worse in Big East schedule, or because the non-conference schedule I don't think should do that to them. It's not last year's non-conference schedule, so maybe at worst they're 5th seed. There are holes in this team. Like, don't get me wrong, this team has holes. Rim pressure is the main one I've talked about because again, you missed the burst from Nembhard, you missed the athleticism from Kaluma. I'm wondering who's going to get to the rim besides Kalkbrenner. But I'm not sure that's enough right now in my head to keep them from winning a lot of games. Like, I think they'll still win a lot of games, and they'll figure some of that stuff out. Obviously, they're going to need Trey to take a big jump, but as far as where I see this team going, I think they could win a ton of games. They probably peak at like a 2-3 seed, and then their floor is probably like a 6 seed again, if I'm being real.
2-part question before we get you out of here, and probably the most important questions for you. Do you get to go to the Bahamas, and are you going to be in Vegas for the Bud Crawford fight?
There's 2 I don't know, because the Bahamas, we haven't really discussed that. I actually thought about that this morning, like if it would be possible for me to go, because I mean, who doesn't want to be in the islands, right? Like I'm
around November. It sounds great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to my editors about that, but I don't know about that one. And in Vegas, we talked about that briefly. I want to like the whole. Like, I know people were kind of surprised when they saw my byline on a boxing story, but like that would be really cool. Like, I mean, this is supposed to be the biggest fight of Bud's career, so I definitely wouldn't mind being in Vegas.
I meant to tell you, I was turning right on the North 30th as you were pulling in last Saturday.
Yeah,
I had to message you and say, "Hey, man, I just left, but I just drove by you." But we got down there kind of early, got to talk to Bud for a little bit, and then got out of there before too many people showed up. So, but hey, man, if you end up in Vegas, let me know. We'll have to link up.
For sure.
That's Joel Lorenzi from the Omaha World Herald. He's the beat writer for the Creighton basketball team. You can also catch some of his stuff on Boxing. You can find all of his stuff at JX Lorenzi on Twitter. Joel, we'll catch up with you down the road.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.